Welcome to the GetRealWealth.com radio show, where wealth means a lot more than just building a second stream of income. Listen and learn how 70% of the millionaires in America used real estate to create a lifestyle that most people only dream about. A lifestyle that includes good health, family, romance, travel, charity, and all the other parts of a balanced life. Now, here is your host, real estate investor and mentor, Steve Davis.
Good afternoon and welcome to the GetRealWealth.com radio show, where we are always talking about using real estate to supplement or replace your earned income so that you can lead a more balanced, fun, joyful life. This is not about quitting your job. It's not about retirement. Retirement sucks. It's not what it's cracked up to be. I've done it twice in my life, hated it both times. It's financial independence is the goal, not retirement. Retirement is the last step before what? Death. I don't know why everybody's running around going, I want to retire, I want to retire, I want to retire. I guess it's people who hate their jobs. Well, switch careers till you find a job you love, because if you retire young, you're going to be bored senseless. We talk about using real estate to supplement. Initially, it's to supplement your income so that you can be less dependent on a job or corporation for your money. If you're making, say, 60, 70 grand a year, you really want to have 60, 70 grand a year in passive income on the side from your real estate. That way, because it's not if your company's going to harm you, they're going to. They're either going to downsize you, demote you, fire you. It's not if, it's when. So when they do that, do you care? No. You have the $6,000 or $7,000 additional income on the side that pays all your bills, and you are at peace. Man, I'm telling you, you have no idea what it's like to compare sleeping when you're dependent on a job and that's your only source of income, and sleeping when you have a second stream of income that you own, that you control. There's a piece about it that my vocabulary won't let me describe very well, other than to just say it's peaceful. It is so wonderful to know that no matter what happens at your job, you're taken care of. And that's what we talk about. Yesterday, I want to hit on something from yesterday, because that CPA I keep teasing you about that we're going to introduce at the grand opening March 26th fired off a couple of emails to me, and just what he's doing is he's teaching me this stuff by giving me pieces at a time. He'll say, okay, talk about this on your radio show this time and explain this to them. Then today, he gave me a bunch more information. I'm not going to share all of it with you. But remember yesterday when I said you could save up to, let me get this number right, $63,500 in a self-employed 401k trust. You can, if you make $200,000 or more, you can put $63,500 in savings in a 401k tax-free. Now, I know it's actually tax-deferred, but you know what I mean by tax-free. He tells me today, he goes, Steve, this is going to blow your mind. Did you know that you can actually do $127,000 into your 401k? That is insane how much tax savings you have by doing that. It's insane. So if you're a successful wholesaler or a successful flipper and you're making over 200 grand a year, it's really a good idea to keep listening to this show, because I'm going to keep dropping that information out as I learn it. And then, as I said, I'll be introducing this CPA March 26th at our grand opening. and then I'll have him on the show on a relatively regular basis to explain this. The tax advantages alone can allow you to double your profit over a 10 or 30-year period. I think it's over a 30-year period that it becomes like $1.6 million more than you would have if you had paid the taxes and invested it that way. So if you were going to have, I don't know, $2 or $3 million in the bank, you're going to have $4.6 million in the bank using this technique. So it's very powerful for the self-employed. Again, that would be your wholesalers and your flippers. If you're an investor, it's a different strategy, meaning if you own single-family rent property, apartment rent property, or commercial business rent property, the rules are a little bit different. But you got to remember that real estate investors in the United States pay the lowest taxes of any for-profit group in the United States. So it's just amazing. All right, on Facebook, LinkedIn, all the other platforms, I posted that today I would talk about why you can't save your way to retirement. Why you can't save your way to retirement. What you must understand is that saving your way to retirement is a strategy for the super rich. And it will make more sense as we go discuss this. For the super rich who, and this would be people making, I'm just going to pick a number. It could be a little less than this, or obviously more than this. But if you're making $500,000 a year, you can probably save your way to retirement. But if you're making less than that, it's going to be very difficult. So let's look at the strategy that I would have to estimate is 90+% of the people out there, because I hear people do it all the time. They say things like, man, I just saved X amount of dollars by doing this. And they'll say, I just bought this and I saved X amount of dollars. Both of those things are incorrect. You didn't save anything when you go spend money. When you say, well, I could have spent $10,000, but I got it for $8,000, I saved $2,000. You didn't save $2,000. You spent $8,000. Because did you immediately take $2,000 and put it in a savings account? You didn't, did you? So you didn't save that $2,000. It's just you spent $8,000. Many people are told by different people on the radio, actually by someone I respect, I won't mention his name, but it's a guy I respect and I like a lot of his strategies, but he says drive used cars. Live in the least house you can possibly live in. Scrimp, save, take conservative vacations. We'll talk more about this saving strategy when we come back from the break. This is the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. If you've got a question for me, it's asksteve@GetRealWealth.com. Email me at asksteve@GetRealWealth.com. You're listening to AM 700 KSEV, the voice of Texas. Did you know that 70% of the millionaires in America used real estate as their main investment vehicle? You can and should have some real estate in your portfolio. This is Steve Davis, host of the GetRealWealth.com radio show. Starting with bad credit and no money at age 27, I began investing in real estate. By 30, I was retired. I will be explaining this at a free 2-hour introductory workshop this month. If you would like to attend, go to GetRealWealth.com. That's GetRealWealth.com. Thank you for listening. Welcome back to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. Remember, you can email me at any time during the show. As soon as I'm done with my little speech, I will start answering these questions. It's asksteve@GetRealWealth.com. Asksteve@GetRealWealth.com. Okay, we're talking about these saving strategies. And I was looking at some financial planners' sales pitches today, and their sales pitch is it's like the 50-20-20 rule or 50-30-20 rule. They want you to put 20% of your income every year into savings. That's their big genius strategy. Unbelievable. And here the average American is living paycheck to paycheck. And this is the only advice he's going to give you. Stop doing that and start saving 20% of what you earn. And what is your response going to be? It's going to be one of hopelessness, because you're already scrimping and saving and using all these saving strategies I was just talking about, and you're still living paycheck to paycheck. It's painful. That's why I believe most people won't go see a financial planner, is because they know there's nothing the financial planner can tell them that they really don't already know, which is they got to stop spending as much, got to stop enjoying life as much, got to scrimp and save. Here's another strategy that to me is without a doubt, it's almost offensive to me. People cutting coupons. I've seen individuals brag that they spend 2 to 3 hours a week cutting coupons, thinking they're going to save their way to retirement. Yeah, I got those tomatoes for 60 cents a pound instead of 80 cents a pound. I got a free thing of toilet paper. And somehow that's helping them financially. And again, I'm going to poke fun at some of the stuff I did in the last segment, which is driving used cars. Live in the least house you can possibly live in. Never buy an expensive watch. And all these little things that reduce your quality of lifestyle, reduce your fun while on this planet, is what you do so that you can have this supposedly incredible retirement. If you don't have the money now to enjoy your life, what makes you think you're going to have it when you're 65? It doesn't make sense, does it, when you think about it that way? So all those strategies, scrimping and saving, lowering your quality of lifestyle, driving used cars, cutting coupons, there's one blatant problem. Is that right? It means really obvious. Problem. To save up $1 million, you have to make $1 million savable. Think about that for a minute. I know it doesn't sound that profound at first, but if you'll think about it deeply, you'll start to go, holy Toledo. If I never make $1 million, how can I save it? You can't. Do you realize to save up $1 million, you have to save $50,000 a year for 20 years? 20 years. $50,000 a year. That means you have to have enough income that you can pay all of your bills, all your taxes, and then of course money for pleasure and fun and travel. After all that, you have to have an additional $50,000 to put in the bank for 20 years straight to save up $1 million. You think cutting coupons is going to generate that $50,000? You think driving a piece of crap used car is going to do that for you? It's not. It's not the trick. I hate even using the word trick, It's not the secret, and I hate the word secret. This has been around, as I always talk about, for thousands of years. The secret is you have to make $1 million to save $1 million. You've got to do it. And to do that, you have to be in a vehicle, investment vehicle, that has the potential to do that for you. Unfortunately, the most popular out there, the stock market, was never designed to make you wealthy. It was designed to keep up with inflation. There's a show on this station, and I'm embarrassed that I can't remember his name, because he was the first financial planner to openly admit that live on a radio show. I was sitting waiting to do my show, and I heard some lady call in, and she was talking about getting rich with her stocks, and he goes, whoa, what are you talking about? Stocks are not there to make you rich. They're there to keep up with inflation, which they do very effectively. But they are not there to make you $1 million. Do some people get lucky and make $1 million in the stock market? Yes, but that's luck. Do you want to base your life off of luck? I suggest that's not a good idea. You want to base your life off of your actions, what you do, and the results that you get from your actions. It's a thing called personal what? Responsibility. That's what it is. And here's the wonderful thing. Every single one of you listening to this radio show has the potential to do it. It's that simple. You just have to stop trying to save $1 million and switch your mind mode, into I'm going to go make $1 million. Now that may seem like a simple switch, but start thinking about it for a second. Switch from trying to save $1 million to making $1 million. Gets kind of scary, doesn't it? Because you're like, well, the only way I know to do that would be to make more money at my job, because that's the only way I know how to make money is through a job. Well, guess what? You're listening to the right show, because we're going to keep hammering away at all these little beliefs and fears until they're gone, until you do know another way to make money, and until you do know how to build that second stream of income that puts that $1 million in savings. And as I described yesterday and a little bit at the beginning of this show, can you see how fast that goes when you're working in a tax-free environment? It's just amazing. So the reason, simply put, you can't save up $1 million is because you have to make $1 million savable. Savable means after taxes, after all your living expenses, after all your fun expenses, you got to have $50,000 a year for 20 years to save up $1 million. Or you could stop depending solely on your job and start building second streams of income, like we do with real estate. And the pieces of real estate go up in value. Double every 20 years since 1776. And suddenly you're making $1 million you're making $1 million in your sideline. And if you love your job, stick to your job. If you don't love your job, quit it and go find a job you do love. Or maybe you like real estate. A lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot, a percentage of people actually love to run real estate. So what they'll do is, as soon as they have enough money to quit their job, they go ahead and quit their job and devote 40 hours a week to building the passive income. And that's their job and their passive income. Example. So this is clear. Somebody makes $7,000 a month at their job. As soon as they have $7,000 a month from their passive income, they quit their job and now devote 40 hours a week to turning that $7,000 into what? A minimum of 14. Double. Because you just lost $7,000 a month when you quit your job. You got to replace that. I recommend that you replace it. And now you got $14,000 a month passive income for the rest of your life. Or semi-passive in that scenario, because the scenario I gave you was the person who enjoys running real estate and they want to do it. This can be called a syndicator in apartments or commercial property, or I guess you could syndicate single-family home. Yeah, I'm sure people do it. Put together a partnership to buy single-family homes. But in most cases, single-family homes are done by an individual. And once they get to 15, 20 houses, then they move over to apartment complexes, as a rule. Okay, if you've got questions about anything I've said, email me. It's asksteve@getrealwealth.com. asksteve@getrealwealth.com. I'm also going to open the phone lines. They're open at 281-558-5738. 281-558-KSEV. Okay, this is a funny email, just somebody who listened to the show. They're calling themselves anonymous, which means I'm not to give out their name. They said, tell the story that you told yesterday. What he's referring to is yesterday I kind of got off on a tangent. I don't even know how I got to this, but I said something to the effect of, it makes me sad when I see people cutting coupons for 2 and 3 hours a week when they should grab a book on building wealth and read 2 to 3 hours a week. I think I said it a little more rudely yesterday. So I apologize for that. All right, we've got to get a break. This is the GetRealWealth.com radio show, the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. You're listening to AM 700 KSEV, the voice of Texas. Thanks for listening. 70% of the millionaires in America used real estate as their main investment vehicle. Listen to the GetRealWealth.com radio show to find out how you can do it too. Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. right here on AM 700 KSEV, the voice of Texas. Welcome back to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. Phone lines are open at 281-558-5738. That's 281-558-KSEV. And also, do not worry about the subject matter that I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be about saving. It doesn't have to be about passive income. Just anything that you've got a question on. Maybe you got a problem with a tenant, a problem with a contractor, something that I've got some past experience with that I might share a good, helpful idea with you. Just give me a call, 281-558-5738, or email me at asksteve@getrealwealth.com. asksteve@getrealwealth.com. Let's go through some questions now. I printed some questions from yesterday. I've already answered these, but this first one is from a Mike. It says, when using hard money for a fix and flip, and the terms are 10% down, 100% financing on rehab, do they give you up money up front for rehab or after each phase is done? So my answer to this is, I'm not sure what type of hard money lender tells you it's 10% down. Because with hard money, there shouldn't be a flat down payment. Meaning, if the deal is 70 cents on the dollar, that should be zero down. If it's 75 cents on the dollar, it should be that additional 5% down. There shouldn't be, I'd like for you to first shop some other hard money lenders, because that just kind of bothers me that they're saying, oh, it's always 10% down. You know, you should have the opportunity, Mike, to do these deals zero down. So make sure that you shop a couple more hard money lenders. Now, to answer your question about do they give you the money up front or for rehab, money up front for rehab or after each phase is done, each one is slightly different. There's a new product on the market where they actually give you half of the rehab up front so you can get started. Then some of them, you have to do the first 25% of the work. Then they come out and inspect and write you a check for that 20%, 25%. Then you do the next 25%. They come out and inspect, and so on. So sometimes it's after each phase is done, as you suggest. Sometimes it's up front. Figure out which works best for you. Some of these hard money loans are coming way down in interest rate, meaning I saw one, I want to say it was 8 or 9% when I'm used to paying up to 12, 13% interest for that month or month and a half that I use them. So make sure you shop the interest rate. Shop at least 3, Mike. Shop at least 3. Let each one of them give you their presentation. Then you figure out which one works the best for you and your family. Okay? All right. Phone lines are open, 281-558-5738. That's 281-558-KSEV. This next question is from a Brandy, about a tenant that is breaking her 1-year lease agreement after just 4 months. Okay. I'm also located in Florida. This is a tough one for me to answer because she's in Florida and I'm not really familiar with the lease and landlord rules of Florida and laws of Florida. But this is the thing I'm going to tell you, Brandy. Let them out. As a rule, I let tenants out whenever they want to break the lease. There's a couple of reasons for this. The main one is I don't want an unhappy tenant. I don't want them destroying the property in anger. I don't want them disappearing in the middle of the night and me not knowing it, and it goes 2 weeks before I find out they've moved out and I lose 2 weeks of rent, and then I have to lease it. I lose 2 weeks leasing it. I lose an entire month because I wouldn't let them out of their lease. There's multiple reasons why to do this. Another one is it's just a hassle to fight somebody and try to keep them in there. Why bother when it takes you a week, 2 weeks to put a new tenant in there that is happy and is going to stay there more than a year? So, Brandy, whenever someone wants to break a lease with me, I always tell them to at least give me 30 days notice and that they have to leave the property in perfect shape. Now, here's another crazy thing. I tell them, even though you're breaking the lease, I'll let you out of the lease and give you your deposit back if that property is perfect. You'd be amazed at what these people will do. I had one guy paint the entire unit after I told him that. Made no sense to me because he only had a $1,500 deposit. He did more than $1,500 work, but he did it and handed it to me in perfect shape. And by the way, I leased that one without even showing it before they moved out. They moved out on, I think, the 26th or 27th. It was about 3 days before the end of the month, and I moved the new person in on the 1st. Now, that's another little, if you will, secret. I always ask them to move out about 5 days before the end of the month. Gives me a chance to have the unit cleaned, gives me a chance to inspect it and show it and get somebody else in there. But I generally, as soon as I know that somebody's moving out, I get the 30-day notice, I'm putting an ad in the paper instantly and starting to generate leads. In this particular case, I was just telling people to drive by. I said, do not go near the property because the tenant's still there, but you can drive by it. He drove by and goes, yeah, perfect neighborhood, perfect house. How many bedrooms? He explained everything to him. He goes, yeah, I'll take it. And I said, this is, of course, subject to your walkthrough. He said, I appreciate that. And since I knew the property was going to be in perfect shape, it all worked out. Does it work out every time that perfectly? No. But that is, you could call that a rule. Okay, phone lines are open, 281-558-5738, 281-558-KSEV. Okay, where can I find a buyer? Now, this question, like I said, has come up multiple times, because everybody's got it backwards when it comes to wholesaling and flipping. I think you should line up buyers before you go out there. Now, not so much with flipping, but I flipped houses to owner-occupants that I met. They were personal friends. They told me exactly what they wanted, and I went out and found what they wanted, rehabbed it, and sold it to them. But that's relatively rare. The reason I'm telling you that story is to keep your ears open. You never know where you're going to find a buyer. You could have a buyer sitting right next to you, and the next day you find the exact house that fits their needs. So always be listening. But let's read this from Steve, a different Steve than me. He says, still working on a buyer investor list, but I got hold of an investor that's trying to liquidate some properties from his portfolio to go purchase an apartment building. Do I contract the properties as a bundle, or should I contract them separately? I have 5 properties that will give him enough. I have 5 properties that will give him enough cash to buy the apartment, I believe is what he's saying. Do I market them to buyers as a bundle or just one at a time? It's a small town in California. I have no website or catch page to generate leads, but I could use some creative strategies. Well, I've never used a catch page to generate leads. This one is so simple. I don't know why everybody doesn't do it. Here it is. To build your buyers list, join a real estate investor club. Because you know what's at a real estate investor club? Real estate investors. It just amazes me that people go, oh, I don't know how to find real estate investors. You got to be kidding me. There are club loads of them. I mean, there must be 20 different clubs in Greater Houston. What do you mean you don't know how to find people to buy your property? Or maybe you're too cheap to join a club. That could be possible. I know people like that. They just, I refuse to join a club. Well, good for you. I'll do 20 deals to your one because I'm a member of a club. So join a club, and I would market it both ways. I would contract them in a way, I'm going to keep this simple, Steve. Contract them on 5 different contracts. You can then sell all 5 contracts to the same investor, or 1 each to 5 investors, or 2 to 1, 3 to the other. You're free to do anything. There is a way to write 1 contract that allows you to do that, but you would have to consult an attorney to get that written properly. I certainly wouldn't share that idea. Well, I shared the idea. I wouldn't share advice on how to do that because I'm not an attorney. You get with an attorney if you want to try to do it on 1 contract. I wouldn't even bother. I would just write it up on 4 separate contracts, Steve and or assigns, and then market it to all the members of the real estate investor group or anybody else you have on your buyer's list. But I don't want to hear anybody say it's hard to find investors. It's easy as pie, because investors like to hang around with other investors. Where would they do that? At a real estate investor club. So join a club and build your buyer's list that way. Okay, this next one is super long. I'm going to try to summarize it. I read it last night and answered. This is someone from New York, Lewis. A tenant has moved out and he's getting ready to replace the tenant. But this is New York. So this is an interesting story. And I may or may not, disclaimed everything I said because I'm in Texas, but I'll share with you what I told him after the break. This is the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. Call me at 281-558-5738. You're listening to AM 700 KSEV, the voice of Texas. Did you know that 95% of Americans fail to retire by age 65 and 36% are dead? The good news is that here at the GetRealWealth.com radio show, we know what the other 5% are doing. 70% of them own real estate. We are a mentoring group for new and experienced real estate investors. We will show you how to build a second stream of income that will allow you to retire at any age. I will be explaining this at a free 2-hour introductory workshop this month. If you would like to attend, please go to GetRealWealth.com. That's GetRealWealth.com. Welcome back to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. We're answering listener questions right now, and I've got a question from a guy in New York, and after reading this, it's really so complex that I'm not going to answer it live on the air. What I'm going to try to do is, he has emailed me back with even more information. So I'm going to try to boil it down to something that I can discuss on the radio, and we'll discuss it tomorrow. I just don't have time to do it right now in the middle of the show. So let's get to this next question. Phone lines are open, 281-558-5738, 281-558-5738. That's KSEV at the end there, 281-558-KSEV, or email me. It's asksteve@getrealwealth.com, asksteve@getrealwealth.com. This is from Bella, and what she's saying is, well, let me just read it. This one's real short. I know everyone says in order to research and find good markets to invest in real estate, you should look at job growth, incomes, migration, etc. But how exactly do I find this info? Do I ask brokers, go to brokerage firms, search online? If so, what reliable websites? Because the internet says a lot of things. How can I keep up to date with new info on markets? Well, first of all, everyone doesn't say that. I've never met anybody that says, look for good job growth, incomes, migration, etc. That is a huge project type of question. In other words, do apartment complexes do that? Yes. Not your single-family investors. See, the single-family investors are going into neighborhoods where there's high occupancy, which is easy to determine, and they stay in a certain price range. And that price range dictates what neighborhoods are good and which ones are bad. The price range that we stay in is the $150,000 to $220,000 neighborhoods. You don't have to carry a gun to collect your rent, yet the rents are high enough that it beats the daylights out of your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, and your maintenance and vacancy. So you make $300 or $400 per unit, and you can go in any city, anywhere in the United States, and make money with very, very few exceptions. This also reminds me, let's take a phone call and I'll come back to this. And the thing I'm going to hit about this is the grass is always greener concept. Okay, let's go to the phone lines now. Go to Northwest Houston and talk to Omar. Omar, thanks a lot for calling in. How are you today?
Hello, sir. Thank you.
How can I help?
I'm leasing my house, and people that are leasing my house won't let me inside to do repairs. We don't have no lease no more. It's a month-to-month basis. I just don't know how to approach it. Should I just give them 30 days?
This is a tough question, Omar, for me, because I've never gone through eviction. I know how to do it. I know how to talk to the judge and things like that. But whether or not I would, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not sure that I would evict them. I would try to negotiate first.
Yeah. Okay.
Why do they not want you in the home? Have they given you a reason? Are they using the dog excuse or wife's home alone, or what excuse are they using?
they're not giving me no excuse. No
They're
excuse.
just not
They want to be there when I go inside. They just want to be there.
They want to be there. Okay. You'd have to look at the lease, Omar.
We don't have no lease right now. They ran out.
Yeah, but they're on month to month. The rules from the original lease still apply. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so,
I kind of made out my own lease, handmade.
Omar, don't do that anymore. Yeah, this is a tough one. If you made up your own lease, I have no idea what to do. Other than, are they paying their rent on time?
Sometimes.
Well, that doesn't sound good at all. They just sound like bad tenants. Yeah, I would. Here's how I handle evictions. The first thing that I do is I call the judge for that neighborhood. I call their office and ask them about their procedures for eviction. Tell them what, and what each judge, I know it's not supposed to be this way, but I'm telling you it is. Each judge does it slightly different. They follow the laws, but they have different little idiosyncrasies for how they want it done, what paperwork they want. So call the judge, tell them what you're going through and that you want to evict, and they will tell you how to do it.
Okay. Thanks a lot, sir.
My pleasure, Omar. And next time, use a legitimate lease and don't let them get on month to month. All right, Omar, you take care. All right, buddy, bye-bye. Yeah, I shouldn't say I've never been. I've been to one eviction in 30 years. One eviction. Evictions are not my strong point. But every time, why has that occurred? Have I not evicted people? Yeah, I've evicted quite a few, probably a dozen, maybe more. But every one of my evictions, they moved out before the court date. Every single one, except for that one. And that wasn't somebody I put in. This was a tenant that someone else put in. So every tenant I've ever put in, if I did ask them to leave, they left before the court date. So that's why I've been to those in those courtrooms. But there's a way to handle an eviction that's different from what people do. Most people get angry, and I hope Omar's still listening. Do not get angry. I don't care what's going on. Never raise your voice. It's pragmatic. It's businesslike. It's just a business. It's just a house. Look, Mr. and Mrs. Tenant, I'm not mad at you, but you can't stay in my house if you don't pay rent. I was hoping you could be out by the 15th. Would that work for you? That's how you communicate with them. Now, sometimes they will lose their flippin' mind and just go off on your head. You never did the maintenance. You didn't do this. You didn't. Well, I keep records on that, so I just ignore it. Never raising my voice. Never getting upset. Stick to the script I just gave you, which is, I understand this just isn't working out. Can you be out by the 15th? No. Okay. You'll notice on your front door there's an eviction notice, and you'll be in court in about 15 days then. So I'll see you there. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Goodbye. If they don't disappear, then you go to court. And this is literally the experience I had the one time I was there, and I had a friend of mine with 120 houses who'd done dozens of evictions. He said, it's always this way. The guy goes, did you pay your rent? No, sir. I didn't ask that. Did you pay your rent? No. Boom. You're gone. It's actually a very easy process. The other thing is, many people tell you it takes 60, 90 days. No. Mine, the one that I did go to, 21 days. Well, I guess it was 22 days. We filed for eviction on the 3rd. Court date was like the 18th. And then they had 3 days to get out after that. 18, 19, 20, 21. Yeah, 21st or 22nd. 21, 22 days, they're gone. So don't fret about evictions. This isn't California where it takes 6 months to, get a bum out of your property. Okay, phone lines are open, 281-558-5738, 281-558-5738. Okay, go back to this question. Remember the question. How do I do research to find a good market to invest in? Not only is this an apartment complex question, it's a speculator's question. And what do speculators do? Do they invest? No, they're speculators. They try to crystal ball it and figure out what the market's going to do. They crystal ball it and try to figure out what that neighborhood's going to do. And they try to pick the best place to invest so that it will go up in value. That's speculation. We don't care if it goes up in value because we got cash flow either way because we're investors. Do we get the appreciation? Absolutely. But that's the icing on the cake, not the cake. The cake is what? Cash flow. The icing is the appreciation, the equity buildup. Then the last thing is what I mentioned before we went to the caller. It's also the grass is always greener. I don't know why people invest out of state and don't invest in their own neighborhoods. They've lived there. They know it. They've got a lot more information about that area than they think they do. But boy, they want to invest in Nevada. Oh, I hear Detroit's coming back. Oh, I hear this city's coming back. That's the grass is always greener. Did you not hear that story when you were a kid and learn that lesson? It was a lesson. You were supposed to learn it. There's opportunity everywhere, right in your own backyard. So, Bella, my recommendation, look in your own backyard. It doesn't say where she's from, but let's assume it's out west. There's opportunity out west. Let's assume it's northeast. There's opportunity northeast. Let's assume it's southeast Florida area. There's opportunity in Florida. There's opportunity right in your own backyard, and you'll have more control of it, more safety. Look in your own backyard. Don't start looking to try and speculate in other states and other cities. Okay, this has been the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. Remember, my email is open to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 281-558-5738 is the call-in number. You're listening to AM 700 KSEV, the voice of Texas.
This has been the GetRealWealth.com radio show. Please remember that this show is for entertainment purposes only and should not be construed as legal, tax, or investing advice. Always get a professional opinion before making any investment decision. To find out about the mentoring and consulting at Real Wealth Academy, visit GetRealWealth.com and attend one of our free introductory workshops on real estate investing. That's GetRealWealth.com. Thanks for listening and have a great rest of your day.